Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to talk about my October reading plans, or TBR. I can't believe it is already almost October. For me, September just flew right on by. Wow. I've been really busy this month with work. So yeah, like how is it October? I'm not sure, but I'm very excited about my October TBR because I am absolutely in the mood for spooky books, gothic romances, dark romances, things like that, and you'll definitely see that in this TBR. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right on into it. As usual, I do have a stack of physical books here next to me, but I'm gonna talk about books that I don't own physically first. So first up on this TBR, I am so excited to read this. This is Last Light by Claire Kent. This is technically a standalone romance. However, she has now written this series called the Kindle series, which takes place in this same world and takes place after the events of this book. So it kind of is a part of that series, but I read these books a little bit out of order because I read Haven, which is book 1 of that Kindle series, last week, and I loved it so much. Like, guys, get ready. I am going to rant and rave about that book in my end of September wrap up. But I loved that book so much that I knew that I needed to go back and read this one. But basically this takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. There is this huge, awful event that happens that completely messes up the ecosystem, and people are dying out, and what cities are left are now under martial law. You know, things are not going well in this world, but there is something about it that is just so addictive to read about. It does give me slight vibes of The Last of Us, if you are familiar with that video game, though this is not a zombie apocalypse type world. There's something about this that gives me those vibes. This one is about our heroine, who I think she has really no one else to turn to, and she runs into the town's mechanic and they start traveling together and they fall in love along the way. And I just can't wait. I have the audiobook for this one ready to go. I am obsessed with this world. I need to read everything that Claire Kent has written, so I am so pumped for this book. Next up, we have Little Sip of Sin by Cleo Evans. This is book 2 in her Creature Cafe series. I read book 1 earlier this month and I really enjoyed it. This is a monster romance series that centers around this cafe where there is a barista that is a matchmaker. He specifically tends to make matches between monsters and humans. And so this one is an MMF poly romance about Draken and Dell. I believe they're both monsters, and so they are looking for a third person to add to their relationship, essentially. And I'm very excited, though this series definitely has like very intense sex scenes with kinks that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I was still entertained by book 1, so I am very much looking forward to this one. Next up, we have That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf. Did I get that title right? I sincerely hope so, but I probably didn't. Obviously, the cover's over here. This is by Kimberly Lemming. This is book 2 in her fantasy romance series. I loved That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. I read that some months back. I'm actually going to link a reading vlog that I did where I was doing a 24-hour readathon. That will be linked up in the cards above because I just ranted and raved about that novella for quite some time in that vlog. But to say I'm excited about this one is quite the understatement. As you can probably tell from the cover and the title, this is definitely a humorous fantasy romance series, and I just love the world that this takes place in. It has a very cozy vibe to it. I feel like this is the perfect little series to read during the fall, and I'm just ready to jump back in. Then we have Soul Eater. I believe this is by Lily Mayne. So this is book 1 in a monster romance series that Jenn from the Book Refuge has recommended to me a couple of times, and she thinks that I'm really going to love it. And Jenn is usually 100% correct with her recommendations. For instance, she was the one that recommended Haven by Claire Kent to me, and I am obsessed with that series now. So I have a feeling that this series is also going to be a new obsession of mine. I know that this one in particular is an MM monster romance between a monster and a human. I think this also kind of takes place in some kind of apocalyptic world. I'm not quite sure but I'm excited about it nonetheless because it has come highly recommended from Jenn. So the next couple books I am going to talk about came highly recommended from Tori from Novel Life. So I'm gonna go ahead and link the specific video of hers that I watched, which was her fall romance recommendations. I'm also gonna link a few more videos from different creators that I've been watching recently that I have been absolutely obsessed with. My friends are killing it with the fall romance content. I am so here for it. But yeah, these next, I think it's 3 books, definitely came from Tori's recommendation. So this is Hollow Heathens. I briefly looked at the synopsis and I can kind of remember what Tori was saying about this book, but really all I know is that it's a gothic romance that takes place in this creepy town. That's all I need to know. This sounds like this is going to have the perfect vibes for October. That's really it. I've never read anything by this author, but I have been intrigued about her other series. I think it's Stay With Me is the first book of that series. So yes, very looking forward to checking out this author. Next up we have Phantom. I believe this is by Greer Rivers. This is a Phantom of the Opera retelling, as you can probably tell. This takes place in modern day in New Orleans, and Tori is also from the New Orleans area. And so to hear her rave about this book just made me so excited to read it. I am obsessed with these kind of like dark and gothic romances that take place in New Orleans. It's just like the perfect atmosphere for those kinds of stories. So I don't know anything else in that. I think this might be a mafia romance as well, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. And then the third book that came from Tori's recommendation is Requiem. I believe this is it by Callie Hart? I can't remember, but this is a dark academia, I believe also a hate to love romance. And once again, hearing her rave about this book just made me so excited about it. So I really didn't need to know more than what I just told you. And these are all books that I'm getting off of Kindle Unlimited as well, in case you are interested. Next up, we have Carnal Urges by J.T. Geisinger. This is book 2 in her Queens and Monsters series. I read book 1 some months back. Really, really loved it. The audiobook in particular is amazing. I highly recommend that you check those audiobooks out. But this is a dark mafia romance series, and I've heard that this book seems to be everyone's favorite of the series. I'm very interested. This is a captor-captive romance about Declan and Sloane. We've seen quite a bit of Sloane in the previous book, and I love her character, and I've heard that Declan is amazing. So I am very excited to be sure. Then we have Losers by Harley LaRue. So this is a follow-up to The Dare, which was a novella that she wrote, I want to say it was sometime last year or the year before, I'm not quite sure, but I devoured that novella. This story is not going to be for everyone. That novella specifically was like a dark and taboo erotic novella. It wasn't quite a romance because this was only the beginning of their story. It's basically about Jess and Manson, but this book is also going to become a Why Choose romance, I believe, with 3 other men. So it's going to be 4 guys and Jess, and they all went to high school together. She bullied them in high school, and so now they're kind of getting revenge against her and kind of using her as their plaything. But of course, real feelings are going to come into play. And from what I understand, this is only going to be part 1 of their full story. I just looked it up on Goodreads, and there is a part 2 book. It doesn't have a cover or anything yet, but I'm very intrigued. So really excited about this full novel. Like I said, I was absolutely obsessed with The Dare when I read it last year, so I have a feeling I'm gonna really love this full-length novel as well. So next up we have Company of Fiends by Catherine Moon. This is book 2 in her historical monster romance series. I really, really enjoyed Lady of Rooksgrave Manor, though I didn't love it as much as some of my friends do. I gave it like 4 stars. But this is like straight up monster erotica. It's also a romance too, because there is a happily ever after. But this second book is about a heroine who is a part of this theater company that was featured quite a bit in Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. But basically, these books are Why Choose romances with monsters. So just like with the first book, I believe the heroine of this book is also a human, and she has like 4 monster men, and they're all together, and it sounds like it's gonna be a good time. I've heard from quite a few people that this book is even better than book one, so I'm very excited. I think Jenn really loved this book, so really looking forward to this. Next up, we have The Surviving Trace. I believe, is this by Kalia Reed? So I don't know much about this one, but this one came highly recommended by Jess from Peace Love Books. She recently did a fall romance recommendations video, so that will also be linked down below. And this is a time travel romance. This is a series of 3 books, I believe. And I don't know much more than that, but I have heard a few people that I follow rave about this series over the years, but it's never become a priority for me until now. This is also on Kindle Unlimited. Quite a few of these books that I'm talking about are on Kindle Unlimited, and I found the audiobooks for this series on Hoopla. So if you have that service, definitely look these up. I'm really looking forward to this one because I've only really read a couple of time travel romances in the past, and the idea of this trope sounds amazing to me, but I just, like I said, I haven't read that many of them, so I'm hoping that I really love this one for sure. Next book we have is Flawless by Elsie Silver. This is book 1 in her Chestnut Spring series. I believe that's what the series is called. This is a book that so many of my bookish friends have been raving and raving about. The first person that comes to mind is Cheyenne from That Tall Book Girl. I was recently watching some of her videos, and hearing her talk about this book, it sounds like it's gonna be absolutely amazing. So this one is about a professional bull rider, but he has been getting into like a bunch of different scandals recently, I think, and so his agent makes his daughter basically be his babysitter to make sure that he doesn't get into any more scandals. And so of course this starts out as like a hate to love kind of relationship because he doesn't want a babysitter. He's a grown man, right? This just sounds like it's gonna be a really great small town romance. So very excited for sure. So now I'm gonna get into this stack of books that I have next to me. First up, I have The Widow of Rose House by Diana Biller. You know, I don't have a lot of historicals on this TBR now that I'm thinking about it, but I'm slowly but surely getting back into the genre because I truly do love historical romances. It's just lately I haven't really been in the mood to read them. But this is like the perfect historical romance to read in October because this is a Gothic romance. This one, I know the hero is like the ultimate cinnamon roll hero. He's a scientist. Ooh, this is a Gilded Age romance. That's exciting. So the heroine is Alva. She fled her abusive husband years earlier. He suddenly dies, and so she's able to return to New York, where she is determined to restore a dilapidated Hyde Park mansion and hopefully rebuild her life. And there may or may not be ghosts in this mansion. That sounds perfect for October, like I said. I've definitely been saving this one. I recently got the audiobook from Audible, so yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I mean, come on, who doesn't love a cinnamon roll hero and Gothic romance vibes? That sounds perfect. Next up, we have Moonstruck by Onley James. This is book 3 in her Necessary Evil series. I am so excited to continue on with this series because very recently, I want to say within the last couple of days, she did a cover reveal for the 7th and final book of the series, and oh my god, I am not ready for this series to be over. Like, wow. This series has truly been amazing, but if you don't know, this is a vigilante serial killer romance series. This one specifically is about Atticus Mulvaney. The series centers around the 7 Mulvaney brothers, and then Jericho. So they are both vigilante serial killers, but from very different backgrounds, and so their meet cute is when they're both trying to kill the same person. Iconic, right? So I'm just so excited to continue on with this series. The audiobooks are also really great as well if you want an audiobook recommendation. This is the perfect series to read for spooky season. Yeah, I am definitely very excited for sure. Then I have a couple of graphic novels and volumes of manga that I want to read in October. First up, we have volume 4 of Spy Family. You guys know this has become my new manga obsession for sure. And volume 8 recently came out. I own all of the volumes in physical form. Very excited about that. So I'm just really excited to continue. This is just a really adorable and wholesome, but also iconic and epic series about about this little spy family where we have a spy, an assassin, and a telepath, but they don't know each other's secrets, and it's hilarious and it's everything. I talk about this series all the time, so I'm gonna shut myself up. Next up, we have Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. I decided to squeeze this into my October TBR because it looks like it has some like autumn, fall vibes, definitely back to school vibes. This was also adapted into a series on Netflix, as you can see here, so I'm very excited to check out that adaptation soon. But this is about Charlie and Nick, and it's just their romance. I've heard that it's like the most adorable thing ever. So I'm here for that. I love adorable and sweet and wholesome content. It's something that is like literally the opposite of Heartstopper. That is Death Note. Volume 2, this is the black edition. So this is a bind up of volumes 3 and 4. I read the first volume earlier this month as a part of a vlog that I did where I was checking out really popular manga and anime series. So I will link that video up in the cards above if you're interested. But I am obsessed with this series. This is the perfect series to read in October, I feel like. You know, this is just very dark and definitely gives me vibes of like a mystery thriller type novel, very fast paced, just so interesting and intriguing and just so well done. I can see why it's so popular and I'm just really excited to continue on. And then one last book I want to quickly mention is Tower of Dawn by Sarah J Maas. This is book 6 in her Throne of Glass series. This is the book that we are reading in October for the SJM Along, which is a read along that we have been doing, reading all of Sarah J Maas's books in publication order that was organized by Jenn from the Book Refuge. So the live show for this one I believe is going to be on October 30th. I will put the actual date and time here. And as far as I know, this one is going to be on Jenn's channel as well. I have been having so much fun with these live shows, but I am not going to be participating in this one, but I am still very excited to read this book in October and watch that discussion. So that is going to be it for my pretty ambitious October TBR, but as someone that reads at least 30 books a month, I think this is pretty doable. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up, or if you want to tell me about books that you are excited about reading in October. And with all that being said, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe. And I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!